Thank you. You may be seated. If you could call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Colin Smith.
Here.
Karen Myers.
Here.
Councilman Liston Bouchette.
Present.
Tony Lappy.
Here.
Jay Johnson.
Here.
Bob Wells. Here. Bill White-Schuler.
Good afternoon.
Brian Kramer.
Good afternoon.
Councilman Bill Steinke. Councilman Nigel Bullock. Commissioner Wayne, Pam Cohen, and Mayor Dan Hours are excused. We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Now we're going to approve the minutes of the April 10th meeting. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, minutes pass. Public to be heard. Want to share from the Art Fest.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juan Santiago, and I am the newly appointed Executive Director of ArtFest for Myers. And I would like to thank the VCV and everyone here for their amazing support. We are going on 25 years stronger than ever, and soon to be 26. We have a short video here to show you what our 25th year was like, as well as a copy of our 2025 poster and a sponsor report book to give you all too. So thank you again. All right. Thank you again. We look forward to see you February 6, 7, and 8 at ArtFest for Myers 2026.
Yeah. Chris Lopez.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Council members. My name is Chris Lopez with the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association here in Southwest Florida. I'd just like to take a moment and talk to you all about how close we were to the fundamental diversion of TDT dollars and the basically elimination of TDCs across the state 2 weeks ago out of the Florida legislature. If the Florida House would have had its way, fundamentally altered the way we know it, and TDCs would have been unable to exist under the funding structure that was amended and legislated. So I'd like to thank all of our FRLA members in the room and our other tourism members and our partners who identified and responded to our call for action that we sent out 2 weeks ago. We had thousands of generated emails and letters responding from our members and our partners to our House members and to the Florida Senate members about please defeat that legislation and please preserve tourism and tourism marketing in the state of Florida. So it appears that most of that harmful legislation is dead as of sine die. There are some TDT issues and some funding issues attached to tax bills that we will be monitoring as the special session on the Florida budget comes into session on May 12th. That should end by June 6th. It has to, or they have to call another special session in Tallahassee. So a big thank you to those in this room who supported that, who continue to support that. I'd like to send a special shout out to our Fort Myers State Representative, Jenna Persons-Mullica, who did vote against harmful TDT and TDC legislation on the House floor when the final vote did come through. So thank you all for your hard work. I'd like to use Lee County and the Fort Myers VCB as a shining example of tourism promotion and how VCBs can work to all's benefit when I talk to my colleagues and our elected officials from across the state. So thank you all. Appreciate it. I'm here if you have any Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association questions. Please look forward to my emails coming out when we have a comprehensive debrief of issues that are going to impact our industry in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to know who to vote out of office every year. I know it every year. It's crazy. Find these people.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Trish Fancher, the Executive Director of Keep Lee County Beautiful. We've been serving Lee County since 1989 with waste reduction, recycling education, beautifying our green spaces, and educating our children on the importance of protecting our natural resources. We do have a strong focus on our waterways, beach, and shorelines. One example is last October, we targeted the Estero Bay Aquatic Preserve, and in one morning, we had volunteers remove 25,000 pounds of litter and debris left over in our mangroves that the contractors kind of couldn't get in because they were a little bit deeper. And this is what we do about 200 times a year. Not always on the shoreline, but a lot of it is focused on that. And I just wanted to introduce who we are, what we do. We're not going anywhere. We have a lot of work to do. And thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you, Chris. Any other public to be heard?
We're all the way in the back.
Hi, everybody. I think I know quite a few people in the room, but for those of you that don't know me, I'm Tracy Ryan. I'm the National Sales Manager for Luminary Hotel and Company. We have a great announcement. After probably the easiest GM transition that we've ever had, thanks to big shoes left to fill with Bobby Noakley, we're proud to announce we do have a new GM. It is his 4th day, so don't quiz him or anything like that. Be nice. Don't scare him away. He's come a long way from originally Key West and now by way of Michigan. So he has complained that the office is very hot.
It is.
And
We're gonna fix that.
But we're glad to welcome him, Joe Schumer.
Good afternoon. Thank you for a quick couple of minutes here. Yes, I'm a long-time hotelier, and in our business, it's often that you get to travel around quite a bit. But this is a little bit like home for me, as Tracy mentioned. I spent 13 years in Key West in the hotel business, and actually was part of the TDC down there as a DAC 1 board member for spending all of the promotional dollars. So that was fun. But at any rate, I moved around quite a bit. I'm back here now as the general manager there, and my primary role is to ensure the success and continued success of Luminary for all of its partners. But it's not lost on any of us there that the importance in our success is dependent on the community involvement and our involvement in the community. So I know the hotel has spent a lot of time and effort and being part of this community, and that won't change. We'll continue to be part of the community and support wherever we can, and I'm just delighted to be here. Can't wait for my family to get back down here with me and get things moving. And as Tracy said, it's been 4 days. It feels like none less than 100. But anyway, looking forward to it and appreciate the couple of moments that you gave us here, and look forward to our continued partnership with Luminary and the TDC and the entire area. So thank you. All right.
Thank you and welcome. Do we have any other public to be heard? Seeing none, any municipalities to be heard?
Good afternoon. I'm Ashley Anderson, City of Cape Coral. I have a very fast and furious, sweet and short presentation today, just to let you know what's going on in the Cape. Just 3 quick points. We just had a Florida Amateur Pickleball Championship in April, 132 players. This is just to illustrate that we have continued interest in this particular field of sport, and it's not going away anytime soon. Cape Coral had their bike night, our final one of the season, on April 12th. And that came out with some big numbers, over 10,000 visitors we projected through our data analysis. Culture Fest was also pretty well received at 2.4 thousand visitors. And just a quick update on our Cape Coral Yacht Club that you all are familiar with and aware. We've been waiting 4 years, but finally a federal permit was issued by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that gave us approval to project, and this is important because obviously this is a huge tourist opportunity for us once this is all done and final. So we're very excited about that and happy to answer any questions after the presentation. And then just to note one key tourism spotlight, if you have guests or networks that are looking for something to do. Cruise and Tiki's is another entity that we have in the Cape as a fantastic company. It's basically a floating tiki bar. I don't know if you've had a chance to partake, but it's fantastic. They're welcoming, and we're looking forward to having more people flock there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other municipalities to be heard? No? Hearing none, we'll close that and move on to the report of the executive director. Pam.
All right. Bed tax collections for March, a little over $8 million, up about 4.4% over our preliminary number for March last year. And for the fiscal year to date, we're at 28.3 million, a little under 4% over last year. When you look at the collections by month and fiscal year to date, I'm really pleased to see that fiscal year to date, we've now exceeded our fiscal year 21. That's good news. You know, beating 22 is going to be tough. I think we got to build a few things along the coast before that's going to happen, but it's good to see us continuing to bounce back from the impacts of Hurricane Ian. In terms of the STAR report for March, you see occupancy was down, ADR was up, and then go ahead and switch to this is the breakout by month for the last few years. And we'll go to key data. You will see occupancy was up, and the vacation rentals still off from where we would like to be in March for sure, but continuing to go up. And then you see the comparison of the previous years. Like I said, we got a long way to go to get back to those occupancy numbers. In terms of hotel room count, 83.4% now of our previous hotel room count. Good to see these numbers continuing to go up. Very pleased. You see Fort Myers Beach up over 50%, as well as Sanibel right there at that 50% mark.
We are over now, we're about 52%.
Right, great to hear. This was May 5th, so great. Next. RSW, airport passenger count, down a little bit in March, down 3.1%, and for the calendar year, down 3.6%. Last item I want to share with you before I ask Joseph to come up and present our quarterly report is that we have a new staff member. New sales coordinator, Jamie Smith, joined us, and we're really happy to have Jamie on our team. She'll be assisting with trade shows, new business development, lead generation, as well as maintaining and building our relationships with our hotel vendors and industry partners. She was previously resort services manager at Amavita at Lakes Park, where she supervised 6 staff people. Prior to that, she served as the sales and executive coordinator at the Alida Hotel in Savannah. She has 10 years of hospitality experience. She also has a bachelor's degree in hospitality management from the Rosen College at UCF. Welcome, Jamie. All right, Joseph, you're up.
Sounds good. If I could turn it off, it'd be great.
All right, for the record, I'm Joseph St. Germain, president of Downs & St. Germain Research. Today I'm going to go over some of the large numbers for the calendar year and then a brief synopsis of January through March. So we're not going to go as deep into it just because there's a lot of room to cover. But as always, just let me know if you have any questions. So to start with, we're going to start with the deep dive into the calendar year 2024. I mean, the one thing as we look at it overall, and you kind of saw it with the TDT, we're seeing recovery. We're not back to those 2022 levels, which not only was 2022 an interesting time just because things like cruises and some international travel hasn't happened, but you'll kind of see how that looks when we get to the January through March figures as we've done year over year. So let's just kind of start with the big numbers because I think given from the message from the FRLA, the economic impact and jobs and wages and the taxes supported, having those numbers at your fingers are more important than ever given what we went through. So just overall, direct spending in Lee County in 2024, over $3.1 billion, an increase of about 18%. And the overall economic impact, nearly $5 billion, $4.95 billion, again, an increase of about 17%. Visitation was up about 15.5%, up to 3.2 million for calendar year 2024. Here are your lodging statistics, occupancy, ADR, RevPAR were up for the year. Anytime you see these figures like this includes hotels and vacation rentals all together. And then overall room nights of over 4.4 million, again, for all of the last calendar year, an increase of 15%. And all those numbers are well and good. But it's kind of like this, the question I always ask is, what does that mean? What do those big numbers do for us here? It supports jobs and supports wages. And in 2024, over 42,000 jobs and over $1.6 billion in wages, up 12% and 15% respectively year over year. And then also for I get the question a lot, the follow-up becomes, okay, I don't work in tourism. How does it help me? Visitors to the area pay sales taxes, which some goes back to the county. They also support property taxes of hotels and vacation rentals and things of that nature. So when you take that into account, the typical household in Lee County saves $1,049 each in property taxes to maintain the levels that we have. So an important number in this day and age, given all the discussion we've had in the last few weeks overall. So I'll let a couple people finish your pictures. Okay, you got that number. We're good to go. So this is one of those things. I'm not trying to belabor the point because I know I have a lot to go over, but this number doesn't show up anywhere. You don't get it on your property tax bill how much is being saved by your bill or any other bill. So I just think it's an important number for everyone in this room when telling that story of tourism. Again, there's a lot more data in the annual report. I mean, literally hundreds of slides. But those are your big numbers, kind of the overall impact over a calendar year. Before I talk about January through March, I just wanted to stop and see if anyone had questions.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's talk to January through March. We just had season, so let's talk about it. So overall, as we look at the figures, the number of days visitors were in the market, room nights, direct spending, and economic impact, all up year over year. The one thing that went down was the number of visitors, but that's because they stayed longer. So while there was less of them, they stayed more days. So I mean, so that was one of the things that you see. So ultimately, I know visitor number is always a key metric, but if visitation is down but spending is up, I don't think that's a bad thing when it comes to things like infrastructure, traffic, parking, and things of that nature. So that's always one thing that I just want to bring to the forefront. You saw some of the figures for March. The overall for the quarter in general was kind of along those lines. Occupancy was down slightly, but ADR and RevPAR was up year over year. Here's where I wanted to really kind of show you how things compare to 2022 and then in the recovery since then. So our occupancy rate is up. Like I said, it slipped slightly year over year, but as you're seeing, your ADR and your RevPAR have increased in 2025. And then, frankly, as we look at like the number of visitation, again, we're keeping 22 here to be like, hey, where will we go? What was our high point? So we're starting to see that come back. And again, room nights, we're getting there. Direct spending and total economic impact. The one thing that I'll note when I saw Tamara's year to date of TDT, these graphs look the same. There's different numbers, but like how it is, and so that is always if you're ever like in a pinch of like how is the tourism economy doing, if you look at TDT, it generally will reflect what your direct spending and overall economic impact is. So overall, we're seeing that growth. Sorry, went away from the microphone. We're seeing the growth, but we still got a little bit. We still got some to go. I mean, and you know, when you saw 83.4% of all the hotels are open, I mean, there's still some ways to go, but we're getting there, and it's incremental, but we are getting there. Yes.
I think the star number was there was 10% increase in available rooms. So when you see occupancy drop, you know, the minute you open the hotel doesn't mean there's instantaneously, you know, things are reopening, but it's not always immediate. It takes a little bit of time for that to react. And so I think that's why we keep seeing, you know, demand's up, but supply is up too. So it's a tricky balance.
Yeah, no, I think that's a key, and I think it's going to be like that for a couple more years. As like if you hold steady on occupancy, hypothetically, that means demand is up because you're going to be reopening those hotels. And sorry, you're going to jump.
First quarter, you got to take account that in 2024, Easter was March 31st.
That's correct.
2025, Easter was late April. So you'll see a shift between the first quarter and second.
Yeah, just it shifts backwards. Always.
100%. That's a great point, and that's some of the context here. When you see these numbers go up despite an Easter difference and that kind of thing, unless you're the new pope and you can kind of control when Easter is or something, that's just going to be one of those things that you can't control. So these are contexts. The one thing I definitely wanted to show is just your origin markets for January through March. International visitation has been in the news a lot. I get a lot of questions there. Your Midwest was still very, very strong. Overall, Northeast is also very strong. The one thing I wanted to note, even though Florida was only at 8%, we have noticed in the last 2 quarters your Florida visitation is increasing. I think there's a variety of factors there. I do think one of the things when it comes to recovery from something like a hurricane, people who live closer to you understand what it was versus as the further you go away, they don't. I think, again, this study doesn't show that, but we're looking at correlation. I do think maybe a lot of Floridians are more ready to come back because they think it's maybe not all the way back, but close enough to recover. And that's the other thing. We saw a little bit of dip in people, first-time visitors. A lot of Floridians will have been here before, but I think they're starting to come back. I'm mentioning that now because it's a 2-quarter trend. We'll try to keep an eye on that. So that was good to see. Again, Florida's not your major market, but it's still a large market. International slipped a little bit. Canada was still your #1 international market for January through March. Overall, from what we saw, January was still strong overall. February and March is where we started to see that slip, not necessarily here, but also just in the national border crossing deployments data, that kind of thing. Overall, as we look at your top markets, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Boston were at the top. Also on top of that, spring training season, so they're constantly towards the top there. But where you saw your largest growth year over year, Boston, Chicago, and New York is where we saw some growth overall. So that was good to see overall. And as I mentioned at the bottom, Miami and the Orlando area showing up in some of your top markets, that isn't like that every single quarter. So like I said, I think we're starting to get a little bit of that return. And finally, the last thing I want to touch on was satisfaction. And the reason I'm touching on this is because that's where we saw the most growth year over year. I think that's partial, there could be a variety of reasons for it, but as you kind of recover, as we looked at the percentage who were very likely to recommend the area, that was 63%. That was up 3 percentage points. 90% overall were likely to recommend the area. 93% are likely to return, but 72% are very likely. That was up 8 percentage points year over year. That's a significant increase. And then finally, nearly 80% are likely to return next year, and 61% are very likely to return next year, plus 7%. One thing that I always note why I'm focusing on the very likely, top box, the top choice. Those are the folks who are more likely to go home and say, oh my gosh, I had such a good trip. And that's really going to amplify the message of your marketing. So that's why it's always nice to have those other percentages in the mid to high 90s, and that's great. But as a moving the needle perspective in terms of amplifying marketing, that's why I focus a lot of the attention there. Again, since we were covering two things, I didn't want to do a deep dive, but that gets to the end, and you had a question.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, remind us what your overall return is percentage for the surveys that are submitted when you're looking at these 90%. That's based on what percentage that you receive?
No, that's a good question. We do 900 a quarter, and so over the course of a year, it usually ends up 3,600 to 4,000 because we usually go over it at some point. So that's over 900 surveys each quarter. So that gives you a margin of error. Man, we're ballparking at around 3.5%. Percentage points. So that is based upon this satisfaction data right there. That is asked to every single person that we talk to. So that's based on over 900 responses. Those are done on iPads throughout the county, and we also do some online just to get some representativeness because you can't be everywhere all at once. But to put it, we do this type of study in 15 other counties in the state of Florida and some other places. This sample size is very robust. It's near the top of the sample size that we do. To give you a sense of things, the minimum we recommend a quarter is 400. You're getting 900. So just to give you a sense of the stability of that data.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
I had a quick question for you on the satisfaction, and I think I found it. You normally say what they like and what they don't like. Was there anything that stood out to you in that?
The negative, because we ask a question specifically about negatives. I mean, traffic is number one every single time. And for what it's worth, that's not just a Lee County thing. That is a pretty much everywhere we do things kind of thing. Whether it's traffic or parking, and the reasons why is because that's something they probably dealt with every single day. I can't remember the rest of them, but the things that generally work our way to the top, there are some things related to recovery. It is in the full report. I'd have to check the answers to give you a fully fleshed out answer. But traffic being number one is consistently that.
I don't know if you recall if there's been a change in people that don't want to come back because of our physical condition. Here it said it was 16%, or 1 in 5 talked about damaged buildings.
Yeah, I'll say it anecdotally, just 'cause normally that has kind of been somewhere in the 15 to 20% range, so that's kind of been fairly solid. Granted, that, as you can imagine, picked up post-Ian. That wasn't really much of an issue before, but that is something that I can check on the veracity of that as a quarterly basis and a year-over-year basis.
Just wondering how we're doing in the minds of our visitors, if we're seeing progress.
I will double check that, but the one thing is, the reason I focus on this slide is we do see increases in these satisfaction metrics. So as an overall satisfaction, it's up, but to that point, yes.
Only thing I was going to say is that's a little tricky because some people are here from the first time, right? And, they're having a first-time experience. It was about 23, 24% of them are first-time visitors. I may have that number wrong, somewhere in there. So you're getting a first-time response from them. So the question isn't specifically, is it better since the last time you were here?
Well, and to that point, there's a variety of ways we can slice and dice that. So I can work with James from my team, and we can kind of take a look and get back with you on that, because that isn't one of those things that I know off the top. But yeah, like I said, the increase, there's people can still be very satisfied and complain about the traffic. I guess that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. I mean, so seeing these numbers go up, that's why I focus on that, because it is generally a positive to see it that way. But to your point, we'll do a deeper dive into some of the negatives part of their trip.
I was just wondering if we're seeing anything. 'Cause we feel like we see things happening.
Yep.
But do our visitors see that as well? And I also see a lot to be done.
No, I think that's a fair point. But yeah, I think the overriding of the satisfaction numbers being up and up as much as they were is a good thing. And then I'll do a deeper dive into some of the negatives year over year.
And I think you're tapping into something I think we're all worried about, right? That how does it feel now versus how it felt before? And I think I will tell you, a former MMGY employee, hasn't worked for MMGY for years, but she came here with she just adopted 2 kids this year, and she came with her family and stayed on Sanibel. And she said, what an amazing vacation it was for them as a family. She had never had children before, first time here as a family. And she said, I know what it looked like before, but the kids' experience here was amazing. They don't know what it looked like before, they're not seeing that difference. And, as a family, what that experience was like for them. So I think it's all perspective, right? Just
Absolutely.
Sharing that they had an amazing vacation, felt like they got to do everything they wanted to do, but she knew because she had been here before what it was like before.
Any other questions for Joseph?
All right. Thank you as always. Take care.
Sir, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Next up, we have our... We should do afternoon more often. Next up, we have the sports development report from Mr. Milk.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Good afternoon, Council. Jeff Milkey with the Lee County Sports Development Office. I'm going to go over January, February, and March really quickly with you. So January was a good month for us. 15,000 room nights filled through sports tourism. That was about 15,000 visitors, $7.5 million direct visitor spend, highlighted by our typical January business, which was fantasy camps, perfect games, large January event, and it was the largest number of events we've ever hosted. We hosted 21 different events during the month of January, so kudos to our Parks Department, who we kept very busy. You can see the historical chart there, so one of our better Januaries we've had. Moving to February, I'll say off the bat, it was the best February we've ever had. 11,400 hotel room nights were filled, $4.8 million in direct visitor spend, anchored by Roy Hobbs Sunshine Classic, which is, again, older adult baseball players who still enjoy the game. They pretty much fill up our fields during February and into March. Florida Youth Soccer continues to come here, and we've got a brand new renovated Kelly Road Soccer Complex to show off, so we're proud of that. Even though it's only a 6-field complex, it really does help us attract some of the FYSA smaller events for the impact that they bring in. Worked with Can-Am Hockey down at Hertz Arena. Savannah Bananas came in, as we all know. I do not have their economic impact report. They have a lengthy process where, they sold out JetBlue Park 3 nights in a row. So you had Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We yet do not know what the split was between visitors and locals. So we want to make sure we give you as accurate of a economic impact snapshot as we can. So as soon as Savannah Bananas submit their report to us, we will then re-report it to you and then slip it back into February's numbers. So stay tuned for that. There you can see the bar chart. Again, that's not including the Savannah Bananas impact. March typically is a little bit softer for us because we spend no effort and resources trying to bring in tourism during March through sports. We'll still help put in events, but we're not actively out trying to bring in and fill hotel rooms during March unless otherwise directed. So 7,900 hotel rooms filled, $4 million direct spending. Part of that's through Parks and Recreation runs the Gene Cusick College Baseball and Softball Spring Break event. We had some hockey and we had some gymnastics event that our office assisted with. You can see on March, typical again, March about 7,900. I will say that that's also spring training. The Red Sox and Twins finished 3rd and 4th in the Grapefruit League. So again, we always typically have the top 2 of the top 4 Grapefruit League attendances. So the Red Sox came in with a total attendance of 133,000. The Twins were 113,000. Red Sox did lose a game to a rain out. It was the Yankees game, so it was definitely, could probably add 11,000 to that. They're 133 if that game hadn't been canceled, so they probably would have been second in the Grapefruit League had they not lost that game. So again, as Joseph indicated, a great season for us. A lot of visitors coming down from those home destinations to visit our community. I will say that we are, with Joseph's help, this January we've started a new economic impact model. So when the chairman returns with county leadership, I'll talk and we'll see if we want to do a quick presentation on how we're doing that. It's basically the same style of economic impact data collection, but Joseph now is providing us data that is monthly and it's exact tour spending per month in our destination as well as ADR. So what we're finding is that it's way more accurate than using the state's annual number, because we had one number for the entire 12 months. So now the number's fluctuating depending on the data, how busy we are. And what we're trying to do to be conservative is we're trying to use only the ADR of the inland property star report. So whatever the inland property ADR for that month was, we're applying it to our sports events, since most of our events do happen in the inland.
One more time, could you just repeat that one more time about how you're doing your pricing?
So what we're doing is with the economic impact numbers that we're going to show you from now on is we are using the monthly data that Joseph's collecting, and we'll be reporting on the monthly average spend of a family, or whether they're out of state and in state. And when it comes to what the bed tax collection is and the ADR that we're applying to our sports events, we're only going to use the STARS inland property rates, not the entire county average, because most sports events stay in the inland.
Right, but then we have to pay as a hotelier a cost per room to your development of, like, it's been upwards of $25 to $30 a room per night. How will that equate into that?
So that's not us. That's the private housing system that our clients can choose to use or not use, depending on whether they bring their own sports housing system in. So we have nothing to do with that. That is.
So, and I think that did change, because they were hoteliers, if the team was playing, they were required to stay, but that's been lifted.
It depended on the group. Like Perfect Game right now is not using the SOC anymore. They use a different national sports housing service, and they are now stay to play. So a team is required to use that housing service. I think it's called Event Connect. Right. Almost all sports organizations now are going through some sort of a formal housing service to book their rooms. Yep. But we are using the local ADR on the monthly basis for inland properties now. And I'm happy to do a sample run or an example of how we do it at the next TDC meeting if we want to.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
New business. We have the approval of the budget. April. Sorry about that. I even knew it was wrong as I said it.
That's okay. I'm usually Amy, but Alice will do. Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, I'm April Green, your fiscal manager. Today, I'm going to provide you an overview of our Q2 budgets for our VCB operating, beach and shoreline operating, and our sports development operating business units. We'll start with the VCB operating business unit, and we are pacing at 40%. And the next slide is the beach and shoreline business unit, and that one is pacing at 44%. And sports development is pacing at 53% of the budget. And if there's any question, and if not, can I respectfully request a motion to accept the budget reports as presented?
Fran has a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You can't, I'm looking to see what color you're thinking.
That's right, I can't.
You can't second.
I'll
I'm
second.
not going to get in trouble again.
I'm the right color.
I'm the right color.
Any further discussion? No, hearing none. All in favor of approving the budget report as presented?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Formalizing the beach and shoreline. Nancy.
Good morning, Council. I am here this afternoon to request that you formalize beach and shoreline funding for fiscal year 25-26. I did want to take a second to thank those TDC members that participated in the review process. There was a workshop on April 16th during which the project requests were discussed. Vice Chair Jay Johnson, Vice Mayor Holly Smith, Pamela Cronin, Councilman Bill Stenke, Rob Wells, and Bill Wachulis participated. So the estimated budget for this program is $12,509,879. And they are recommending that the TDC consider approving funding recommendations for 17 beach and shoreline projects totaling $12,424,185. There was a second recommendation made by the TDC for you to consider, and that is to recommend that the Board of County Commissioners consider funding 11 projects totaling $17,994,619 from reserves. So this is the spreadsheet that they used during the workshop. The third column over is the recommendation for beach and shoreline funding. You can see the $12.4 million at the bottom of that column. They were all totally eligible through the beach and, well, not totally. There was some portions that were ineligible, but that's the funding recommended through the beach and shoreline program. The final column is the TDC's recommendation to fund from reserves. Color are beach and shoreline projects that are very large, a lot of money. The orange colored projects are eligible through another portion of the state statute. So they are eligible through the state statute, just not beach and shoreline. So the total down at the bottom of that column, $17.9 million. So those are the two requests that we're going to request that you consider today. And unless there's questions, we do need to do a few things before you formalize that funding. Is there any?
Just to clarify, so everyone's aware, the way that the county statute's set up, we only fund beach and shoreline through our funding, and anything that is nature center has to be through reserves. We don't have a funding mechanism for that. And
Correct.
those are all the ones in is that orange? Correct.
Yes.
Just so we're all on the same page, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the green at the bottom, those 4 projects were, when we discussed it in the subcommittee, was that those are one-time projects outside the scope of beach and shoreline and should not take money from the normal beach and shoreline projects that happen throughout the county that are important on an annualized basis. That's I'm just making sure I'm summarizing correctly what we discussed. Ally?
Yeah, one question I do have, and thank you, that was a little bit of work, was I thought that we did request that the ones in orange be separated during the ask.
They are in the
So they will
ask.
be asked for separately, not as a lump of 17 million, but the ones in orange with that total requested to be immediately accepted. We weren't sure how the others, because those were so large, and that's county money. So as long as that's clear,
So as long as
then
we-
that's what I believe that we talked about at the meeting.
So just to have one ask when it goes forward, showing the nature centers as one,
Yes.
is everything in orange,
Mm-hmm.
as one ask from reserves, and then the green large capital projects as a second ask. Is that what you're asking?
Correct. That's what I believe that we discussed.
Okay, yeah. Tony?
Yeah, one question on the green, obviously with big numbers, it's not gonna happen overnight. So is this gonna be like set aside in escrow and then will be drawn upon as needed?
It's all reimbursed.
So,
I'll try to answer. So,
Okay,
when these capital projects are approved by the board, they get their own project number, and the funds are allocated so the project can move forward, and it is drawn against them over time. And this is true for the municipalities as well. They can draw at them over time. But the funds stay in that project line until that project's completed. If all the funds aren't used, then those funds go back to reserves. But that's the way it's done. Does that?
I think it's a three-year window.
Our interlocal agreement with the municipalities is that you have 3 years to complete those. We know those capital projects are difficult to get the permitting, all the layers of procurement process, et cetera, done, so it's a 3-year period.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's significant to understand that what's in green was considered to be storm effects that were a one-time, one and done, and that's why they were isolated and why the request is coming from reserves, that's what reserves are for, is an unforeseen event, which obviously all those were.
Brian?
Can you remind me how much is in reserves?
49.
53 million, I think?
Yes. Somewhere between 49 and 53.
53 million, I
Yeah, but
think.
who's counting?
It's
I
approximately 50.
Our taxpayers are.
And the Board of County Commissioners did move some money in their last meeting out of reserves, about 400,000.
This would, again, take almost $18 million from reserves. I believe our number is 54 million, and that would leave us with 36, so, just for clarification.
Appreciative of the board for moving those for the reasons that they did.
So any other questions, discussions?
Nancy, you have to do a lot of legislative findings.
So we have a whole list of legislative findings that we need to do individually.
Yes, so if you're ready, I'll begin.
Okay.
So I'm going to read each one, and you're going to move them separately, per the county attorney. So request number 2 from the city of Sanibel for beach and shoreline erosion monitoring. To fund this project, TDC must make a legislative finding that this project promotes tourism.
Looking for a motion? Thank you, Rob. Looking for a second. Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Next.
Request 3 from the Barrow Island Park Society for Gasparilla Island grounds maintenance. To fund interpretive signs, the TDC must make a factual determination that the project is primarily related to the advancement and promotion of tourism.
Thank you. Can I get a motion? Rob, can I get a second? Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Request 4, Captiva Erosion Prevention District, Captiva Beach Park Maintenance. To fund parking lot and vehicle maintenance, TDC must make a legislative finding that such expenditures will improve, maintain, or restore beach park facilities and promote tourism.
Thank you. Can I get a motion? Bill?
Tony.
Nope, I looked at Bill and then thinking Tony.
It's okay.
And that's how I got Alice. Anyway.
Don't worry about it.
Tony, and a second on Rob. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Request number 5 is from the City of Cape Coral for beach park facility maintenance. To fund landscape maintenance and vehicles through this program, the TDC must make a legislative finding that they promote tourism.
We have to do those separate?
I think we do.
We'll go separate. Can I get a motion?
I believe those are pretty much the same finding.
So
It's just that the second,
So just one motion to make both of those findings.
so the second is to fund the project portions from section 125.01045B of the Florida State Statute. The TDC must make a legislative finding that such a project related to and primarily promotes such a purpose.
thank you. Can I get a motion? Bill, can I get a second? Tony, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
Request number 6 is from the City of Sanibel for beach park operations and maintenance to fund portalet rentals, landscape and environmental maintenance, vehicles, restroom repairs, signage, kiosk, and a water tank. The TDC must make a legislative determination that these items promote tourism.
Thank you. May I get a motion? Bill, can I get a second? Rob, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
Request 7 is from Gasparilla Island Administration for Cayo Costa utility vehicles. To fund this project, the TDC must make legislative determination that the purchase of these vehicles promotes tourism.
Can I get a motion? Rob, can I get a second? Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
Request 10 is Lee County Facilities Construction and Management for beachfront park maintenance. To fund the redecking of the boardwalk at the 6 Mile Slough from section 125.01045B of the Florida State Statute, TDC must determine that this facility is a nature park.
Can I get a motion? Nigel, can I get a second? Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
Request 12 from Lee County Parks and Recreation for temporary restroom facilities. The Florida State Statutes 125.01045A includes the financing of beach park facilities, thus clearly authorizing the use of tourist development tax funds for the construction of certain facilities. A review of the definition of this term indicates that such things as restrooms may well come within the scope of the statute. The word facility is defined as something designed, built, installed, etc., to serve a specific function affording a convenience or service. So the TDC must make a legislative finding that restroom facilities will promote tourism within the county or will improve, maintain, or restore beach park facilities.
Thank you. May I get a motion? Nigel, can I get a second? Tony? Any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes.
The next request is from the town of Fort Myers Beach for beach and shoreline funding. And again, there's two requests. One of them is from the separate part of the statute, so I'll read them both. To fund landscape maintenance, vehicles, signage, and an auger, the TDC must make a legislative finding that the project promotes tourism. In addition, to fund the observation pier and boat dock at the Mound House from section 125.01045B of the Florida State Statute, TDC must determine that the Mound House is a nature park.
Thank you. May I get a motion? Fran, and a second? Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Did we miss 14?
We did, but because I lumped it,
Later?
it's going to be at the end.
Okay.
Sorry to confuse you.
No worries.
16 is the Barry Island Park Society, Gasparilla Island Lighthouse Visitor Transportation. To fund this project, TDC must make a legislative finding that it will promote tourism within the county.
Looking for a motion. Rob, looking for a second. Tony, any discussion? Hearing none. Anyone opposed? Hearing nothing. Motion passes.
Here's another restroom request, so it's a little bit lengthy. The City of Cape Coral for J.C. Park restrooms. Florida Statute 125.01045A includes financing of beach park facilities, thus clearly authorizing the use of TDC funds for construction of certain facilities. that such things as restrooms may well come within the scope of the statute. The word facility is defined as something designed, built, installed to serve a specific function, affording a convenience or service. To fund this project, TDC must make a legislative determination that such an expenditure will improve, maintain, or restore beach park facilities.
Thank you. May I get a motion? Bill, looking for a second. Tony, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Request 18 from the City of Cape Coral for the J.C. Park Boardwalk Overlook. This expenditure is permissible if TDC satisfies the statutory requirement that the boardwalk constitutes an extension of a nature center and the project relates to tourism.
May I get a motion? Bill, looking for a second. Tony, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Request number 22 from the Village of Estero for the Estero River Park Phase 2 trails. To fund nature trails and an observation deck per Florida State Statute Section 125.01045B, TDC must satisfy the statutory requirement that this project constitutes an extension of a nature center and primarily promotes such a purpose.
Nigel, looking for a second. Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Request 23 from the City of Sanibel, shared use path resurfacing. The use of TDT revenues for the maintenance and repair of a shared use path by tourists is permissible if this project is determined to satisfy the statutory requirement of the Florida State Statute Section 125.01045B, which is the project constitutes an extension of a nature center and primarily promotes tourism.
Thank you, Megan. Fran, looking for a second. Tony, any discussion? Hearing none. Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Request 24 from Lee County Parks and Recreation for Lynn Hall Memorial Park improvements to fund the hardscape area, landscaping, and new irrigation system. TDC must make a determination that these portions of the project is tourist-related and primarily promotes tourism.
Thank you. May I get a motion? Fran, looking for a second. Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Request 25 from Lee County Parks and Recreation for Crescent Beach Park improvements. To fund landscaping and signage, TDC must make a legislative finding that this project promotes tourism.
Looking for motion. Fran, looking for a second. Bill, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
26 is Lee County Parks and Recreation Sanibel Causeway Island improvements. Florida Statute 125.01045A includes financing of beach park facilities, thus clearly authorizing the use of tourist development tax funds for the construction of certain facilities. Indicates that such things as public parking and restrooms may well come within the scope of the statute. The word facility is defined as something designed, built, installed, etc., to serve a specific function, affording a convenience or service. So to fund public parking and restroom facilities for this project, the TDC must make a determination that such expenditures will improve, maintain, or restore beach park facilities and promote tourism within the county.
Thank you. May I get a motion? Bill, looking for a second. Nigel, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
So this is the Lee County Transit request for the tram service on Fort Myers Beach. They requested the operation of the tram and then a new tram separately. In the future, they'll combine them. And the county attorney was okay with me combining because the legislative finding request is the exact same thing. So for projects 14 and 28 from Lee County Transit, to fund both projects, TDC must make a legislative finding that there is a clear and direct relationship between the promotion of tourism and the particular transportation service being offered.
Thank you. Looking for a motion. Bill, a second. Fran, any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Good job, Vice Chair.
Thank you.
So to close this out, the recommendations that we'll need you to consider and approve, hopefully, is the first would be for approving funding recommendations for 17 beach and shoreline projects totaling $12,424,185.
Make that motion.
That motion for a second. Nigel, any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
The next request is to make a recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners consider funding 11 projects totaling $17,994,619 from reserves.
Thank you. Looking for a motion. Tony, for a second. Bill, any discussion? This is Councilmember Stanky.
Yeah, is this where we want to identify the separation between the two?
Yes.
Maybe in parentheses of some kind, X amount for?
And so, Nancy, what we're looking for is a breakout of the orange, which is the nature centers. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so you want to move them separately then?
So, do we want?
Not necessarily move them separately, but an identification of what adds up to that 17,994,619.
So for the green, which were beach and shoreline projects, you're going to recommend funding from reserves in the amount of $16,638,356.
Correct.
And this is the way we'll present it to the board. There'll be two lines, and we'll have them separated out. For the other requests, under the other portion of the state statute, nature center related, it's $1,356,263.
So they'll be separated so you can see the nature parts and the capital request.
They're different budget lines as well. When we present it to the board, it'll be separated out, and it'll be pulling from two different budgets. So,
I think the purpose was to have separate motions on those.
okay.
So a total of 3 motions.
Okay.
Is what we had discussed. We had the main things which we covered in the first, and then the second, which I believe were in the orange, and the third, the last ones, which were in the green. So 3 BOCC.
So with that, I would ask Tony, if you'd like to revise your motion to make a recommendation that the BOCC consider funding of 4 projects for 16 point, what? Nancy, 16.
$16,638,356.
Those 4 projects. Okay, we'll modify the motion.
Correct. We'll just do the 4 projects first. Do you make that change, Tony?
Yeah, that's the modified motion. We'll stay with that.
And Bill, you were the second. You're good with that? Yes. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Now we need a third motion to present, I lost the wording, but to present to the BOCC a request for funding for 7 projects totaling 1.3 something. Do you have the number, Nancy? 1.3?
$1,356,263.
For nature parks out of reserves. And if I can get that motion. Bill, looking for a second.
I'll second.
Tony, any discussion?
One question I have for discussion maybe has nothing to do with this, but I just want to get it on the table. It'd be great if we could have a graph, a bar graph of where the reserves are and where the reserves would be after this comes out, maybe over a 3 to 4 year period. We could do that. Something visual that just, I think, makes everybody feel where the reserves are.
After this, these recommendations, it takes the reserve to approximately $36,611,000 is where we sit after if these funding requests are approved by the BOCC.
Okay.
Rob?
What are we putting in reserves?
I'm sorry?
Oh, it's not the same amount every year.
Right.
Reserves are just what's left over on the beach and shoreline.
Right.
We're actually putting in a reserve fund every year. Can't remember.
That's what's left. That's what we're, one moment. Please hold.
Okay. Don't hold those, let us come back with a presentation that's effective, because we just allocated from reserves for a couple of other things, as you know. This week, the board approved Causeway Island and also the funding for the chambers, the recovery funding. So it might not be perfectly 36.6. I'm going to say 36 and be comfortable with that number, but we'll get you.
Let's go with 36 million, give or take.
For the moment.
Good.
That's a government number, give or take.
We'll get you an accurate number, but we've done some things this week that could have affected this number.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Hold on. Any opposed on the last motion?
No.
Hearing none, motion passes. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other new business to come forth? Hearing none, for council information.
Lots of articles in your packet. I hope you enjoy them.
Perfect, thank you. TDC member items. Bill?
Good. Got a few things to report here. All good. So May 26th, Memorial Day, we'll actually have another general or flag officer. His name is Admiral. He's Admiral Chris Murray. Very interesting gentleman. Gave the commencement speech at one of the academies last year, so he'll be a great speaker. That'll be the last event that we have at Riverside Park in downtown Bonita, as we'll the next day start our $3 million renovation of downtown Riverside Park, which we're very excited about. I've seen the plans. They look great. If you do come, it's pretty interesting. Admiral Murray was in Top Gun school. He is a Top Gun fighter pilot graduate in 1985. Does anybody know what happened in 1985?
I graduated from college.
I graduated from high school.
All you kids, yeah. That was the year that they filmed Top Gun. And he was actually, they approached him about being in the movie. They brought him in for an interview with the director. The interview lasted 2 minutes. They told him he had a perfect face for radio. And excused him. But he has some great stories. We, if you don't know, been involved in a 11-month, 3-week conversation, negotiation with the school board over the demolition of our 1921 schoolhouse. For the city of Bonita Springs, not only is it a historic building, but it's one of the points where people come when they're visiting Bonita. It is going to have to be torn down, and what we have come to an agreement is that they're going to put up a facade of the original front of the building. So if you look behind our dais at City Hall, if you look online at Bonita Springs Elementary School, you'll see this picture. So it's got 1921 Bonita Springs Elementary School. That's going to be replicated as a real facade brick. It'll look exactly like it does now. It'll be just a facade, but it'll be almost 94% of the size of the current building. And we didn't want to hold up construction of a new school. So there will be the historic piece left, and that should occur within the next year, year and a half. Can't say I'm excited about it, but it's a acceptable solution to a problem. BERT, Bonita Estero Rails to Trails, very important project for not only Bonita Springs and Estero, but Collier County now has gotten involved. Purchase price is going to be somewhere between 78 and 82 million, more likely 78, because we won't be trying to purchase the entire trail. However, our council, along with the Estero City Council, have stepped up, and each of us are going to commit $17 million to the purchase. So we're about 40 to 45% of the way there. Collier has verbally committed to $2 million. I think they may step up with a little bit more. And now the BERT folks, if you haven't worked with them, very diligent in their efforts. They're now reaching out for public-private partnerships. We know there's no county money, and right now this year there's no state money available, but I think that project eventually will come to fruition. I think that'll be a huge part of growing our county and TDC monies in the years to come. That's my report.
Thank you. Fran?
Well, as most of you know, I'm going to retire. And
I didn't approve that.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I did from the airport, and it's hard, you know, I've been here 40 years, that's way too long. And it's hard to retire, but there comes a time when you know you have to do it. And I think that Commissioner David will get to it this week. I've been saying this for 6 months now, but I think he will get to it this week, and I think you'll be happy with the folks that he's looking at. Yes, I came on in 1985, and I replaced Best Western. Is that Bruno? I'm trying to think his last name. Bruno, I think. And I could tell you some funny stories, and I won't. I'll tell you individually. But when I first came on, we were meeting in a little building downtown Fort Myers, and it had a real rickety stairs that went straight up. And I think we had maybe 6 old tables, and we had, I think, 6 chairs, and Bud Nacera was the chairman. I think I've been through six chairmans, I think. Maybe more. And, but anyhow, it's been my pleasure to be here for all these years. I've made some really, really good friends, and I love being here. I'm going to miss y'all as I miss them all. Steve out at the airport, and Carol, and made some wonderful friends out there too. So I hope the new person will, you know, pay attention to the airport, because I think that's really important. So anyhow, I don't know if I'll be here next month or not. It depends what David does in the next few weeks, so we'll see. But goodbye to everybody, and I love being here.
I don't know how we top that. Should I just adjourn the meeting?
Okay.
Any other for council information? Brian? Holly?
Yeah. Fran, it's been a pleasure in so many ways.
You're
both
wonderful.
through the TDC and outside of the TDC, getting to know you and becoming a friend of yours. So
thank you.
hopefully our paths will continue to cross.
It will.
But we'll miss you here. I went to celebrate Benita. So when I walked into Riverside Park, I thought every municipality should have something like that.
No, just us.
Well, we all need to have something similar, because what I saw was a gathering of communities, not for a fundraiser, but people having a time and a place to go just to enjoy. And you guys have done a really good job. So yeah, I wish we'd have one. I was with Dan Allers and went down. We're like, man, we need to step up a little bit. Everyone knows, although they're not our Causeway Islands, they are our front doors. The Causeway Islands opened on May 1st. And it's really nice to see people after so long to be able to get there and enjoy. You know, $6 is a small price to pay to pack your car and get to some of the most beautiful beaches that we have around. And right now the beaches are absolutely beautiful. And Lee County, you've done a great job getting those back ahead of schedule. I know there's more work to be done, but you see the people enjoying them, and that's such a draw. So thank you very much for the work that you all did on that. Last night we had Islands Night, so it's our tribute. Sam Bailey was the originator of that. It was fun to watch. Mayor Miller is here in the audience. This is his first TDC meeting, and I just want everyone to say hello to him. And he threw out the baseball last night, and he did a pretty darn good job. He had a pretty good arm. So there was about 3,000 people in attendance. We had the parade seems to grow every year. I swear there's more in the parade than in the stands when we're having the parade. But it was a great turnout, so a lot of fun. We do that every year. May 28th, we have Love Sanibel back. That starts again this year, and that is the main organization that is St. Michael's Episcopal Church, that look to see how can we get people to our islands in the summertime. So it is a summer-long celebration, and it is going to be for celebrating our small businesses, and the dates are from May 28th and August 23rd. I hope and I encourage you all to come and love Sanibel back. So, and I think all I can say is Chamber Day seems like it's every day here. It's so beautiful out right now. It's a great time to come to enjoy Lee County. Traffic isn't quite as bad. Restaurant lines aren't as bad. So, yeah, we're really excited about a good summer, a calm summer as we roll into hurricane season and roll right out of hurricane season. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Snake.
Thank you. Just one thing I would let people know about, the private enterprise food truck park and marina that has been being constructed there at the base of the Cape Coral Bridge is looking good to go for an opening in June. And they have gone live with their website for reservations for the event that will be held in conjunction with Red, White, and Boom on the 4th of July. So anyone that's interested, the website is slipawaycape.com, slipawaycape.com, and you can get your tickets to the event and arrange for a boat slip if you want to go by boat. That's going to be a tremendous addition to the attractions available in Cape Coral, so we're really looking forward to that.
Thank you. Councilmember Boucher. Rob?
Nothing.
Pam?
I can't let Fran's sharing go without saying how much the staff and I appreciate the service you have given this board and our community. I know I came to the Bureau in 2000, 25 years ago, and you have been a steady guiding hand to me during that time, a great mentor, and a champion for Fort Myers Beach, but also a champion for the entire tourism industry. And Fran, you're a legend, and I want you to know how much I appreciate all you've done, and I know our team does. The projects, the efforts, the energy that you have brought, the good community member you are, leading so many projects at the beach over the years. Wow, you are truly a special person, and I want to say that today.
Kids were babies.
That's right. Mine too. And your granddaughter was a baby. I mean, we've been together a long time, but I just want to say, it's about what it's the things you've accomplished that really matter, and your involvement in the tourism industry has been really special. Thank you.
Thank you. And hearing nothing else, we are adjourned.